Don't engage alone. We do this together.
Yeah!
We got it! We got it!
New 52 booklet.
Somebody clip this one.
Welcome to Comics League Movie Night. I'm Jared, and today we are discussing yes, we're talking Batman Hush, one of the biggest examples of a wasted opportunity. But in the meantime,
all the hopes and dreams of Krypton live in you now.
what's
Yes.
up, Teladia? Hey, what's up, Tevia? So we're
Hello.
talking about Batman Hush.
Of course.
And all right, so let's start with talking about the comic book
Yes.
that this movie is based on, which is infinitesimally, yes, that's my new word, better than the movie, like by a wide margin. So
Plus
first, I wanna, yeah, go ahead.
Plus, as well, the artwork done by Jim Lee is magnificent.
In fact, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I want to start with. This was the book that, so to give you context, Jim Lee had just come to DC at this point. DC had just bought Wildstorm and he was moving to DC. So they didn't know what book to give to him. So Jeff Loeb was doing this, actually planning this, and they said, just give it to Jim Lee. And this is the book that made Jim Lee the DC legend he was. He was already a top tier artist because of his work on X-Men and Wildcats and such, but this was the book that cemented him as a DC legend. Like it's one of the greatest Batman books I think ever. And it's like even here he perfectly like shows motion. Actually, no, why am I showing the book? I have DC online. Why am I doing
Yeah.
this?
I have no idea, Jared. I think you're in the world of your own today.
Okay. The minute you can make it through a Batman game without punching air, then you can talk.
Hey, at least I'm good at stealth and Spider-Man, so you can't say nothing.
Except for landing as Spider-Man, so I can say something there, Mr. Pancake.
So you're never gonna let that up, are you?
It was hilarious. Why should I?
This pancake?
Why isn't this sharing?
Wait, what?
For some
What's not
reason, my
sharing?
screen is having issues scaring. It says the browser can't access your screen. Try accessing a different screen. All right, so let me try this.
Try it again.
For some reason,
Yeah.
StreamYard's been giving me issues with screen sharing. And Tevia said, hang on. I think I gave this way a positive rating in my original review, but looking back on it, man, do I regret it. Okay, so let me tell you this. Up until you get to the reveal on who Hush is in this movie, it's actually pretty good.
Yes.
That's what I will say. Up until they reveal who Hush is in the movie, then it's actually okay. It's actually pretty dope because for the most part, yeah, it is pretty like spot on to what's going on with
almost. It's almost 1-to-1.
All right, here we go. It must be I can't share from Safari. Well, anyway, so yeah, here it is. You see like a lot of Jim Lee's work here for the comic. I mean, look at that. Look at that.
Exactly. Jim Lee's work is awesome.
He is exemplary as a DC artist. I'm trying to find the book that I wanted to go for this.
Mhm.
But what's really interesting about Hush is this is also here's the interesting thing about Hush, the storyline. If you want to introduce someone to Batman and all of his rogues, this is actually a good one because it introduces all of the villains like
Batman's rogue
very
gallery.
well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Teladia. Your thoughts on Hush in general?
I think Hush is a good story. Obviously, it takes place after Under the Red Hood.
Yeah,
Um,
it firmly does. Yeah,
It firmly does. It does fit in that context. And furthermore, it's like one of Jim Lee's greatest work ever created for DC. I mean, they made posters of Batman and Superman standing on a gargoyle. Have you seen those?
yeah, I know. And then they just made one for Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's like, so I had a really good idea. Why don't we put Superman on the left, Wonder Woman in the middle, and Batman all the way.
They're tearing each other apart. They're like trying to hold her and fighting over her. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be hilarious.
So that'd be really cool.
That'd be really cool. Tevia says it bothers me that this movie didn't have Tim Drake Robin, but he didn't play that important of a role in the comic, though. He was just like there when he did show up.
The side character. Plus, the thing is with the movie compared to the comic actually got Batwoman. In the movie, it
Not in Hush. It wasn't in Hush.
wasn't it.
Batgirl.
Wasn't it Batgirl? Yeah.
It was Batgirl. In the comic, it was Huntress. And by the way, Tevia,
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
I don't
my
hold that
mistake.
against this movie because Tim Drake was not a character in the DC AMU in general. So it's not like he was doing stuff with the Titans
Missed.
and they excluded him. No, he wasn't in this.
He was a missed.
They skipped him. But I mean, yeah. But besides that, the story itself is actually pretty cool. It deals a lot with Batman's like rogues, his past, and one of my favorite lines of the book, and they actually had it in the movie. I was very happy. Is when he's about to fight Superman, and he goes, "Deep down, Clark is a good person, and deep down, I'm not."
I'm just like,
It's so good. I just love this book so much. Since I can't share screen because it's giving me issues, I'm just gonna hold it.
Yeah.
So if you see here, what's actually kind of cool is that the way he draws Harley Quinn moving, he's drawing motion.
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
And it's just he goes like so nuts. There's even a part where we see first person view of Batman, and it's showing that his cowl has like a heads-up display and a readout that says, "This dude has a weak knee. Punch him in the weak knee."
You know that I wish they put that in the Arkham games. So I'm not
They
gonna
did.
lie.
They did. It's the detective vision.
No, weak knee, attack the weak knee, like he said in the
Okay,
comic.
that would be see. Here's the thing. Here's why I could see him not doing that, because that's a really, really, really complicated thing to code out and everything, because you have to think of all these different unique ideas. It kind of has a readout when like you're fighting a Titan guy that says, "Hey, punch them here because they're weak here." So it kind of has that, but the point is they had detective vision in the comics. And in fact, I actually think it came from the comics, because I'm pretty sure Hush came out before Arkham.
Yeah, Hush came out before Arkham. Yeah.
And yeah, this movie takes place after Death and Reign, which adds to the other part that makes this movie so horrible, is the overemphasis on Lois Lane. It's amazing how much of DC she ruins whenever she's in it.
She's Loser Lane.
Loser Lane. Thank you. It's freaking astounding. But I will say, when Pika did a review of this, and what's up, Draga? Yes, this is because they take the reveal of this book. They take the point of this book and twist it. And I didn't say worst DC animated movie. I said worst Batman animated movie.
It says in the title, Batman's absolute worst animated movie.
Yeah,
that's
Batman's most absolute, Draga. And well, we know why. But when Pika did reviewed this movie, he actually used a clip of me laughing when Catwoman threw Lois Lane off the building. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's good. I like that. Thank you. Because really good at those cameos.
Yeah, he gets good at those. Yeah.
But see, the reason why I labeled it this way, and now we'll transition to the movie, and obviously we'll intersperse the comic discussion in there too. My problem with this should have been a slam dunk, because you're adopting arguably one of the two most iconic modern Batman stories. And Atchison says it should have been 2 parts in a straight up shot. Yes, exactly. Here's my point, Atchison and Teladia. You have one of the most iconic modern Batman stories. One of the ones that everyone looks to as like one of the greatest Batman stories ever.
Yeah.
And you feel the need to change the ending. And I was talking about this with MSK because for some reason we always rant about this. He goes, okay, their reason for changing this was they didn't want you, because like if you're watching the movie, you don't want to see like you already know how it ends, so we had to change it. And then we're like, then don't adapt Batman Hush. The premise of you adapting this movie means that this book means that you're going to adapt the book, not your version of the book, but the actual source material. But anyway, so Teladia, before we go into in depth, your overall thoughts on the movie, not the book.
My overall thoughts on the movie. I'm just like, first off, I get it. Second off, I'm just like, excuse me. And the whole Batcat thing, I was like, oh.
That's accurate to the comics, as a matter of fact. And what's cool.
No, but in an animated film, they've never done that before.
Yes, true. But they're adapting Hush, so that was one of the key plot points that they can't keep out, because that romance is actually very essential to the story, so they can't like cut that out. And by the way, I will say, I was extremely happy when I see them. I'm trying to find the actual shot when I saw them actually recreate the kiss, and it was so good. They recreate this image so well. And by the way, there's an homage to that in my upcoming comic. Just wanted to put that in there. But that's why I'm like, okay, there was no reason to change it, because here's the thing. They adapted all the best parts of the book too. They did all the good parts too. They even changed his costume to the blue and gray and gold belt costume, which I thought was pretty cool. They had the Burnside Batgirl suit because that was what she was known for having at the time. But I'm just like, you had one of the best. Shame the Amanda Waller stuff really went nowhere in this movie. Well,
she
was Amanda Waller. I don't think she was in the book. She was in the movie. She was in the movie.
She was? Okay.
She was in the prison when Bane breaks out, and and they use her to track down her Poison Ivy.
Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Which again, I like the Poison Ivy design because again, it's based off of Jim Lee's
work. Yeah.
The part that I felt I wish they had in here was the part where Batman fights what actually we would find out later to be Jason Todd.
But the one thing that confuses me the most is the costume. Not for Batman. For Superman.
Oh, yeah. Because that's the costume he had at the end of Reign.
Yeah, he had that costume at the end of Reign. Right? I'm just like thinking, why not put the underwears on this guy? If they're going to put it on Batman, they might as well put it on Superman at that point, right?
Because at that point in Rebirth, Superman didn't have that. He didn't have that until He Who Must Not Be Named, but his name starts with a B came on the book. That's my really elaborate way.
But if they're going off the source material did have the trunks.
But they wanted to keep it more toward like the characters in the comics.
Yeah.
That's why I know it's kind of weird because they didn't give Batman the Rebirth suit, which I still say I really want to see that suit adapted because that's really, really cool. But again, the Rebirth Superman suit, I will say, is one of the ones where I'm like, okay, I don't hate it. Again, you know my favorite Superman suit of all time in comics. In terms of animation, it's the Black Snyder suit. But in terms of like comics, it is the new 52 armor. But this is the one where I was like, okay, cool. And plus, it showed you don't need the trunks because both versions of the Rebirth suit had the belt, and it was fine.
Yeah, I mean, I made that on DC Universe Online. Remember?
Yeah, it looks really good, by the way. But I mean, the thing about it, and I know it's confusing because they gave Batman his Hush suit and not his Rebirth suit. I guess the reason why they did that was because they wanted him to have the suit he had in the comic. So they
Actually,
kind of had to. It's really. I actually don't like Superman's early Rebirth suit. The early Rebirth suit, I'm not a fan of. It's the post Reborn suit that I kind of like.
oh
And by recovery suit, do you mean black suit? Because yes,
yeah,
that is an excellent
I
one.
th-
I
I
appreciate
think
that.
I think he or she means that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, Atchison. That's a fantastic suit. I love that. My favorite is the Snyder one because it has like the cape and
The cape,
everything on that.
the
Yeah,
cape,
I
of
like
course,
that.
of
But
course.
again, it's like the thing of so they were very inconsistent with the suits. I'll give you that. I personally like the early Rebirth suit or the Reborn suit, Tevia. Because here's my problem with it. In fact, I have a model of it. I'll go get it real quick. My problem with it, it doesn't break up the color palette that much. He even has blue boots. Doesn't
Yeah,
that
he has
look kind of and the only difference, and for some reason it wasn't on this model when they painted it, was those red stripes on here. I don't like that. It
they
doesn't
were
really do it.
there was a design with the red boots in that suit though.
It was. And Tevia,
The
I know why
concept.
you liked that design because it was included in another book. We know that.
We know the reason why, Tevia.
Whereas opposed, if you look at this, there's more color variety in this suit.
Yes. I wish you had cloth cape though, Jared. I wish you had cloth cape for those action figures.
Well, because that was before it was more mainstream to have that. A lot of the newer McFarlane figures have that. Like my Flash Batman has it. I think they just started implementing cloth cape on these action figures.
Apparently not for Superman though. So, which is really
I guess so.
annoying.
At least with the Hot Toys, it's cloth, but there's a wire in the capes. You can like pose it in terms of where you want the wind to go and stuff. So they do a great job with that one. But it's like, so back to Hush.
Yeah.
This continues my utter like hatred because here's the thing. I like a lot of these movies. I've been very clear on that. The last part of few movies is where it starts to get a little, let me put it this way, utterly infuriating. Partly it's majorly because this is when DC got very vindictive against anyone that like the Super Wonder relationship or the new 52 in general. And it's just like this movie exists because they try to cram back in the Lois Lane relationship. And particularly in like the Death and Reign, there was like nothing there. I still disagree with Sam Lee with James Tucker, by the way, that the reason why they I love the comic, hated the movie. What's up, Nix? And yes, I agree with you. Again, the you took one of the most iconic Batman stories and screwed it up. Here's where it screws up. All right, so the plot of the movie and the comic is pretty much the same. In fact, I'll change the label to plot. All right. So Batman encounters a villain. Basically, the plot is Batman is being manipulated by a villain named Hush that apparently knows everything about him. It would later be revealed that Hush, and this is the comic, Hush in the comic is Batman's longtime friend, Tommy Elliott, who he grew up with, who killed his own parents because he wanted the insurance money and stuff. So he was going after Batman. And then it was later revealed. Here's where it links to the movie. The Riddler plot was kind of in the comic, except in this, it was more like Riddler was the ringleader behind Hush. In the movie, they changed it where Hush was the Riddler.
I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It really, really doesn't. Because I'm like, why? Why would that
What?
changes the entire dynamic of the comic? And I get that they wanted to change to like, and that was one of the dumbest changes. Thank you, Atchison. Yes, it
Thank
was.
you.
And why?
Thank you.
I have no idea, Tavia. I honestly,
That's
that
the
was my question. As soon as I saw it, when I saw this movie for the first time, Tavia, I legit went, "Why?"
You should have Sam Blue that.
I did. Did I ask that? I don't remember if I asked that.
No, I don't think you
Next
did.
time I have him on, I'll ask him about that if like he has any insight. Because again, these later movies he didn't work on that closely. Because otherwise I would have had him on for this. Why change it to the Riddler? Because they said they wanted to change it so you couldn't guess what the plot of the movie was going to be. But you're adapting a beloved comic book story. That's like adapting the death of Superman and not killing Superman.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? At least in the new 52, they technically would have killed Superman if he stayed as Doomsday permanently. With this, it's like, no.
They did the movie did Jim Lee dirty though, I feel. That's like the whole plot points and everything.
Boo, bad reason. Yes, exactly. It is a horrible reason. And the sad part is this movie has some good parts. I liked how it showed the Batman Catwoman relationship because it actually represented that pretty well. I liked the action scenes and all that stuff. Everything was good up until the end is when they kill it.
No, when the Superman Batman fight.
That was dope with the gauntlets.
That was the gauntlets instead of the ring, because in the comic it's the ring.
Yeah, in this one he used like brass and knuckles essentially in the movie. I'm trying to see.
Yeah.
Was it just the ring? Yeah, it was just the ring. And I'm like, yeah, that was more badass. And like the gauntlets have like spikes on them. And I'm like, yeah, that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, I see what you did there, WB.
That was dope. I love that. I wish that Batman went, "Do you bleed?"
You know what would be cool if they readapted Batman Hush?
They probably will. I could see this being a James Gunn DCU movie, assuming the DCU gets to that point.
If they readapt it, I think people will eat it up. So
yeah, because you would have already had the Bat family in there if they're going off, because they're not reintroducing, they're not doing an origin movie for all the Bat family. In Batman Brave and the Bold, that they are active. Then they could adapt this and use all the Bat family members from this and just, there you go, do that. Tevia says, to make it worse, this movie had such potential to adapt the comic book correctly, but they screwed it up with yeah, exactly. We already talked about that. They should have stuck with Jason Todd. Yes, because here's the genius of that scene. In the book, when this came out, because remember, this came out pre-Under the Red Hood. So this came out, and then Jason Todd shows up. Yes, he undoes the bandage and it's Jason Todd, and he fights Batman, and then he turns into Clayface and like melts away. What Under the Red Hood retconned was that was Jason Todd in the beginning. At a time period in the battle when he was away from Batman, he switched places with Clayface, and then that's when Clayface became Jason Todd.
That and yes, very interesting.
Yeah, and you can keep that as well. Yeah, exactly. See, there's a lot of how these books intersect. That's like, oh wow, that's cool. It's one of the very rare occasions when a retcon was good.
Yes, I find that very fascinating. I wish that they did that in animation or even in live action.
Yeah, I know. But honestly, I don't think we'll have to wait long for a Batman Hush adaptation because this story is just too iconic for them to leave it. They can't like not adapt this again.
No, they can't.
The two stories I could definitely see them doing. Warner Brothers and DC screwing up Color Me Surprised. I know, Randy, isn't that weird? It's really strange. Who would have thought Warner Brothers and DC could screw up their movies so badly? Wow. It's almost like we've never seen. It's almost like the live action reflected this. Wow.
Yeah, it's like
I need the clip of Owen Wilson going, wow.
Wow.
It just astounds me because it's like you have this movie here. And the thing about actually, so how about we do this about which apparently the Red Hood stuff in the comics took place during Infinite Crisis comic. Well, it came out during Infinite Crisis because Jason had just come back to life
Mhm.
because of Superboy Prime punching reality. Yes,
Phew.
like you would punch a window. It's called the retcon punch, and brought Jason Todd back to life. And it was the story of him coming in Hush that actually took place after Infinite Crisis because it was like months that he was like in a coma still. So let's do this. I want to talk a little bit more positively. So let's talk about what the movie does well. And like I
Yes.
said before, recreating panels from Jim Lee's book, this does very well. Like they recreate that kiss scene perfectly. They even have the moonlight and Gotham in the background. They do that extremely well.
The Superman and Poison Ivy shot, that was done really well.
The vines on him.
The vines on
The
him.
other thing is the other difference is that, by the way, they didn't have Crypto in this because Crypto was in the comic. He like helped them track down Poison Ivy. But the other
That's
part that I did
interesting.
like is when they punch Poison Ivy, and this is in the comic and the movie. Superman goes, "Was that really necessary?" And then Batman and Catwoman go, "Yes."
Yes.
Wish they adapted the comics artwork style for this movie.
Hey,
That
Daniel.
would have actually been. See, if they did a about Daniel, Batman Hush is one of my favorite Batman portrayals. Yeah, me too, dude. Me too, 100%.
Yes.
Tevia says, still wish they adapted the comics artwork style. Okay. If this were not in the DC AMU, they would have. The problem with this is that they had to fit it into the art style established by the animated movie universe. Because otherwise, yeah, they could have done like what they did with like Apocalypse or like, what's the other one? Public Enemies, where they adapt the comic style. So they could have done that. It's just this had the added like problem of being in a universe where they needed one look. It's the same thing with like the Long Halloween and the Tomorrowverse. The reason why it looks like that is because they needed to fit it in the Tomorrowverse art style. Because otherwise, yeah, I would have just tried to recreate Jim Lee's art style as close as possible. In fact, if you look at it, they recreated a lot of the iconic images for this, but with the Decamu suits. And I'm going to pull one up if this thing will share. But Tevia says that, yeah, that's true. Which is a shame because Batman Hush would have worked, but way better. Yeah, if it weren't in the universe, actually, you know what? Here's the problem with that, Tevia. I think they still would have done the Riddler reveal that later ruined the movie because that didn't really tie into the DC AMU. So I mean, in other words, it's not like a retcon that was like setting up something in the DC AMU. It was just like they wanted to change the story. So not putting it in the DC AMU does not necessarily disclude it from that. And then Daniel says, did you guys see the DC AMU opinions, please? Yes, I did. That's what we're talking about right now. It's again, and Daniel, what we said was it's a wasted opportunity because this is one of the best Batman books of all time. This should have been a slam dunk for them, 100%. Should have been a slam dunk for them. Tevia says, so basically, damn you can, damn you. Yeah, exactly. You really. Either way, that was probably going to happen. The Riddler thing was probably going to happen.
Yes.
Now, I will say though, if they did Hush with Batfleck, you know who I would have cast as Hush?
Go on.
The Green Goblin.
You mean William Dafoe?
William Dafoe. Although he's Volko, so they can't exactly do that. And plus, Nick would want a ginger to play. I wish Nick were here, but he's at a con right now, so it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good.
But I know, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, I just think that the way things should have been for Batman Hush, that they should have just taken it from the source material. Don't change things, because if you change things for the movie, you've ruined the movie experience for fans. Fans of DC will complain about it, right? Like myself and you, right? We like for example, right? Lois, well, not Lois Lane. We hate Lois Lane. The fact that the kryptonite lipstick,
Mm-hmm.
right?
They did that.
No, but Lois does that,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, no, please don't do
Stop
that.
cleaning Clark. I'm like, yeah. Again, DC for some reason keeps trying to find ways to make Lois Lane relevant, but the problem is they're either doing it in all the wrong ways, or Lois is just a character you can't make irrelevant anymore.
Yeah.
And again, we talked about this on Legacy, so if you want to see more on our hatred of Lois Lane, there is that. And yes, William Dafoe is perfect for any and all roles. That is true. He would, because I think he would have done the split personality well.
Can you imagine him playing a Joker role in the
Actually, yeah,
BBC?
he can, because when you think about it, the Green Goblin like personality is Joker.
I can see William Dafoe as DCU's James Gunn's DCU Joker. I can see that.
Yeah, probably that would actually work out really well, I think. And what's actually really cool, I know it's like, I know it's called Batman Brave and the Bold, but can you imagine if the plot of the movie is this? Because this is also a good introduction to the Bat family as well.
And the Rogues Gallery.
And the Rogues Gallery. So you could just do that and just call it Batman Brave and the Bold. Or at least take elements from it. Now let's talk about, okay, so we talked about what the movie does well. Recreating panels, it does great. The Bat-Cat relationship is awesome. Joker for Mayor, nice. So the art style, the recreation of panels, it takes the funny parts of the book, and basically everything until the end is great.
Mhm.
Now let's talk about what the movie doesn't do well. All right.
Do we have to really?
The ending.
Yeah.
The ending 100%. And it's like, there are some times where it tries to like force in like Damien and all that stuff. And I'm like, I get it, but it's like, okay, well, that was random and he wasn't in the original book. It's odd. It's just odd in my estimation. So now let's go to general thoughts. By the way, Teladia, let me ask you, what do you think this movie doesn't do well?
Well, obviously the whole revelation of Hush. That's
Well, yeah, that's the big one.
that's the big one. The second thing is the I would have to say I think the swapping of characters between Batgirl and Huntress. I thought it would be a really good opportunity to introduce Huntress into this universe.
Yeah, that's true. That's the other thing. It's like, that's my problem with the later DeCamu movies. They change stuff for literally no reason. Why would you change Huntress to Batgirl when she has zero effect on the plot? It'd be one thing if they made Batgirl Barbara Gordon really essential to the movie. I'm just like, what? You don't need this. Stop changing the book. Because there's an image here. I'm going to pull up the image of Huntress showing up because it's so badass when she's on the bike.
Yeah, that's what
Like,
really annoyed me.
Here, right here. Check. Get a load of that.
The Huntress mobile.
The Huntress bike. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That's the problem with the DeCamu movies. At this point, they change stuff in the stupidest ways, either off screen or in terms of not off screen. Even if it's on screen, they change stuff where they have no reason to change. Like, let's say, for instance, the Huntress thing, the Damien being forced into this. And Nex actually brings up a good point. She likes Damien, but don't force him where he isn't needed. He wasn't needed. I know we got that nice joke where he basically goes, don't forget to wear protection, father. But again, he's not needed in this movie.
What would have made sense is Dick Grayson.
Nightwing
right?
saying that. Exactly. There you go.
That makes more logical sense than having Damien say it. Because Dick Grayson, obviously, he's a little bit older and he's Nightwing. And remember, Nightwing is in Batman Hush. He plays a
Yes.
crucial role.
So there you go. You could have rolled with Nightwing being like that, because Nightwing plays a good role in both these movies. That's great. but you screw it up. And I'm like, yeah, their first mistake was trying to fit non. That is true, actually. Here's
Yeah.
Atchison brings up an excellent point. They tried to fit new 52 stories into this universe. That is actually an excellent point. I never thought of that. Because here's the problem with doing that. First off, you had plenty of other great storylines in the new 52 that you could have adapted. And second off, there were certain canon reasons why you can't fit these into the new 52, and they just took that and threw it around. They should have just stuck with, because if you notice, the first couple of movies are basically new 52 stories. Like,
Yeah.
Origin is adapted in Justice League War, Throne of Atlantis,
S-
Court of the Owls is basically Batman versus Robin. So that's where I was like, okay, that's fine. It's basically Court of the Owls.
Justice League versus Teen Titans.
That didn't happen in the new 52, but it's close enough. They should have had a Superman and Wonder Woman movie, but that's besides the point. And then the minute they start saying Death of Superman, Reign of the Superman, this and this, and I'm like, what? Stop trying to force this in there. Yes. That right there. Forever Evil. Imagine the crime syndicate showing up. And wait, they could have the Earth 3 Justice League, the crime syndicate, voiced by the original Justice League Unlimited voice actors.
Oh my.
Like Susan Eisenberg as the Superwoman.
George Newbern as Ultraman.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy as Owlman. Can you imagine if they did that? That would be dope. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. You could have done the same. Lex Luthor joins the Justice League, because guess what happens at the end of that story? He forces his way on the Justice League.
But what also they missed out on?
What?
Super Doom.
Or that they could have done that. But don't you? No, you don't. I would have liked that. You don't need those two, because you could just have a multiversal portal opens. Because the point of Forever, you don't have to explain Pandora's box and all that stuff. And Teladia, we'll talk about that when we start covering the Justice League comic series on your channel, because we'll reach that point. But the issue is that you, pun intended, you don't need to adapt all of this. You could have just said portal opens, because that's the point of that. There's plenty of ways, I'm sure, in the Earth 3 universe where they can travel the multiverse. They just travel there. The Anti-Monitor shows up, and then can you imagine live action Justice League Darkseid War? Mm-hmm. Daniel says the story is so grim, so complex. It needs a live. Yes, Hush needs a live action, absolutely. But yeah, that, and actually, again, that is one of the best analyses of this. They started to try and fit new 52 and Rebirth, because here's the thing. At this time when DC went into Rebirth, this is why Rebirth is a lazy publishing initiative. They tried to fit in, they did this exact thing, but in the comics, and it didn't make any sense. And that's one of the reasons why Rebirth utterly failed as a publishing initiative, according to comic book shop owners. It's not according to me, it's according to comic book shop owners.
Yep. And I don't blame I blame one of DC for changing it up, and I blame the keyboard warriors too.
And you can also blame like guys like Dan Jurgens and Tomasi. They were like, I don't want to write this version of the character because it's not the way it was when I grew up. And I'm like, are you writing for DC? Yes. Shut up and write. Do you want to write for DC? Yes. Okay. You're going to write the characters that we goddamn tell you to. And that's the way I would handle that if I were the head of DC. I'd say, or go somewhere else. Because we're respecting the continuity that A, we created, and B, is popular with the fan base.
Exactly.
And by the way, if I were in charge of the new 52, you and the DCU and the Truth Arc would never have happened. But that's the point.
And Rebirth and Convergence.
And Rebirth would never have happened. I would have said, screw it. No. Well, because remember, the justification for the move to Rebirth was the DCU era and the Truth Arc and all that stuff. And I'm like, that would have never have happened. And using Flash logic. That if we change this one thing, can you imagine if I make DC worse? I make my own Flashpoint timeline just by changing this one thing with DC.
Yes. I
But
can see it, you know.
yeah, that's what I would have done. And then I would have said, we're not worrying about nostalgia. That's it. We're done.
I would
Nostalgia
do
can only take you that long. And that's also why they tried to fit in these non-new 52 stories in, because nostalgia. Death of Superman. Hush. Okay. What are you going to say, Teladia?
I would have done the New 52 for maybe another 5 years, right? Leading up to maybe 2018, 2019 at the very least.
I would have done it up until the Snyderverse ends, because that's basically a significant portion of the Snyderverse was inspired by the
But
new
besides,
52.
I'm not talking about the movie side. I'm talking about the comic version itself, right? Just so that way you could tell a lot more stories for the New 52, and you could have like a good maybe 10-year run in the New 52.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny when you compare New 52 to Rebirth. Guess what? New 52 lasted about 5 years. Rebirth lasted a year and a half. So basically, up until Futures End of Convergence. Yes, exactly. That's where
Yeah.
I would have at least stopped and then reevaluated, seen what was popular and what was continuing. In other words, every so often, I wouldn't do an every so often reboot. I would do an ever so often check to see. No, again, Tevi, I said earlier, DCU would not have happened. I would have stopped that. I already said that.
It'd be kaput.
One of the reasons why Godzilla is still popular after all these years is because Toho allowed the character. Yes, exactly. And actually, I'm going to give you guys a preview of the upcoming Super Wonder Legacy episode, because Britt and I are examining that DC Superpower documentary, because what it says there, when it gets to like the new 52 and stuff, a few of the quotes that Britt and I found are the DC creatives saying, hey, listen, sometimes you have to change the stuff because the older crowd that's nostalgic for all this stuff, they're going away. They're going to die of old age or blah, 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 blah. And they're not going to be able to buy the books anymore. And what was compelling to like people 10 years ago is not compelling to people now. So you have to keep up. I know it's an ugly term, updating for the modern audiences, but you got to do it well. It's like even DiDio, when he was still with DC, he goes, hey, listen, what you need, what the new 52 did is it contemporized these characters and made them younger so that they were more relatable. It's like Superman was like 24, I think, or Britt has a better like understanding of this. But the point is, all these characters were in their early to mid 20s, so people growing up around that time period could relate to them. And what did you see? Massive sales. So you have to stop combining. Oh, you're going to say Teladia? I'm sorry.
And the New 52 is more popular than ever before. Just saying.
Yeah, actually, what's kind of funny on comics Twitter, I keep seeing people reading stories from that time period, and they're like, actually, you know what? This area was dope. It seems that when the people on Twitter that don't read books actually stop talking and read the books, they actually like them. Funny how that works. It's astounding. But see, that's really where. So in terms of like our final general thoughts on Hush, it's one of the examples of when you take a good idea and mess it up. And I'm just like, okay, it's fine. It's odd. Now, for next week, I had an interesting idea, Teladia, and I'll talk to the other guys about this too. But so next week, we're covering Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. What I'm thinking is that we do a live watch party and discussion of it. So we watch the movie first live and react to it, and then we do our regular movie night discussion.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, and drop in the comments and in the chat if you guys would be interested in that. But yeah, and so Teladia, how would you rate Hush the movie? We'll start with the movie and then we'll do the comic. How do you rate the movie?
It's a 6.5 out of 10 at the very best.
Would I rate it that low? Yeah, I would rate it at that point about there, because the sixth part is for everything up until that ending scene, because that
Yeah.
ending scene changes the way you look at the entire movie. So that's why that
Yeah.
ending scene is so that seemingly minor detail is so crucial.
Yes.
So that's why I do that. And any
For the
movie that puts in a large emphasis on Lois Lane, I'm like, no.
And as for the comic, it's a straight up 9.5 or a 10 out of 10.
Oh, the
for me.
comic is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. 100% a 10 out of 10.
The only thing I have ripe on is the pants, the trunks. That's the only thing I'm still griped
The
about.
bat
because I-
trunks
yeah, I
and
don't
the
like
super
that.
trunks. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but you see, to me, that's not enough to like take off like serious points. And Nix, I know you like the trunks. That's about you and four people. So we're just gonna
You and four
go on.
people.
You and
You're
four
the-
people. So we're
You
gonna
and the
roll
four.
with that.
You and the four horsemen.
The four horsemen of the trunk apocalypse.
If you know what I'm referring to, then you know.
Yeah,
If you know, you
exactly,
know.
exactly. And
So-
all right, so next, what I want to do, yes, Nix, yes, Nix.
yes, next. We'll explain it to you. We'll explain to you afterwards, like in next thing.
Yeah, but so again, now before we conclude, let's talk about this. How would you like? How would we have done this as an animated movie if we were in charge? Number one, don't tie it into the Camus. Do not.
No.
Number two, recreate Jim Lee's art style as close as possible, like you did with the previous DC animated movies, because then it looks like on the comic page to screen. What's Teladia?
I would instantly bring back Bruce Greenwood. Instantly, just to bring him back to do Batman.
You wouldn't have Kevin Conroy?
No. Bruce Greenwood, because it's a canon event to Under the Red Hood. Remember
Oh,
that.
actually, that's a good idea. That is actually a good point. It's you can make it a prequel to Under the Red Hood. Number three, actually follow the story. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. Actually follow the damn plot of the book.
Yes, follow the story.
And by the way, they released an omnibus of this because there was a sequel to Hush that had Hush return. So there was there's an omnibus that collects both, and I need that.
We need to cover that at one point.
Batman
Batman Hush
that'd be fun.
continuation.
Yeah, we can check that out. But yeah, I actually follow the story, recreate the art style, have Bruce Greenwood. That actually works really well. Don't do any change whatsoever. True. DC's problem is trying to turn a scrub into
Randall, you're one of our guys.
All right, you know what, Randall. All right, or Randy, you get this.
man.
There you go. You get that, my man. There you go. Randy, you will fit in very well here at Comics League. Very well. And that is DC's problem, actually. They keep doing that. And here's the example. And yes, we're going to go on a Lois Lane rant because it's always time for a Lois Lane rant. Even now with Dawn of DC, they keep DC's idea to make Lois relevant is to turn her into other characters like Perry White and basically Batman. And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing in the world. If she is so good as a character on her own, she should be able to stand on her own.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You know, it's kind of funny. They released some new covers. Brett sent me this. They released a bunch of new covers for DC. It's like a sweater themed. The one for Superman and Lois looks very AI generated. Perry White's but Tevia. So they make her the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. That part's fine. I'm not saying don't do that story. It's just they have her act like Perry White as well. Like she's yelling at people saying, go get me a story. And I'm like, you're not Perry White. Not once were you ever like this. Why are you acting like this? It's the dumbest thing in the world. But anyway, yeah, they make these covers that's basically like Superman and Lois cuddling in front of the fire, and they have sweaters on. The thing about it, it looks very AI generated to the point where I'm like, what? It just doesn't look good. It's And that's the thing. When you have to, and the thing is that when people, when close fans talk about it, they talk about the relationship more from a sexual standpoint and not from a compatibility standpoint. And I'm like, there's your problem. You're listening to the shippers, and honest, at least with the correct ship, there's actual numbers to back it up.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. And Nyx goes, Lois shouldn't be screaming at others to get her the story, that she should be out there getting herself. Well, yeah, but remember, Nyx, in the current storyline, she is the editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet. So I get that. That part I'm fine with. It's just when you try and force in a bunch of like her acting like other characters. That's the issue. It's like when they had her use the Hellbat armor, and I'm pretty sure Batman would never teach Lois Lane how to use the Hellbat armor. I'm like, that is stupid as hell. That is the classic example of when you're trying to highlight a character and make the fans like them. So you're trying to show, oh, look at how good she is. She could use the Hellbat armor. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. And then I really hope they aren't using AI for those two. Let me show you the cover. Please, DC, please work. Please, StreamYard work. Let me pull up this. Okay, DC sweater covers. Let me show you. Okay, so, all right, Teladia. Her using the Hellbat armor. No, it wasn't badass, Tevia, because it makes no sense that she would be able to use that thing. How is that badass? How is that badass? Because ignoring the Super Sons part, take the Super Sons out of it. Let me ask you this, Tevia. Take John out of the story. Now tell me if her using the Hellbat suit makes any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
All right, so here's the cover. I really hope StreamYard's not allowing me to share it. God dang it. Actually, you know what? I'll take a picture of it and put it on the screen. Here, let me show you this. DC sweater weather covers. I'm going to show you this. Your job, Teladia, is to tell me if these look if this looks AI.
Let me see 1 second.
I'm trying to pull it up real quick. Okay, here we go. I'm going to pull up the Lois and Clark one. And I'm going to full screen my thing here, solo.
All right, 1 second.
And Tevia, again, take away John Kent and tell me if it makes sense now.
John Kent is irrelevant.
And John Kent himself is not the character that is solely exists to justify Superman's relationship with Lois. That's the only reason why he exists.
So you're showing me the image?
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. It didn't. I thought you already saw it. So let me single screen me real quick here. Yeah, I know. It looks like it was made by AI. That's my issue here. And then Tevia, with that story, if that's crucial for the story to work, if you're supposed if that very unbelievably moronic detail is essential for that story to work, maybe it's just a crappy story. But yes, that does look AI generated. AI Superman. Thank you, Nyx. It does look AI generated. And I'm like, if you have to do AI generated to make hot covers for your characters, maybe the pairing doesn't work. And that's just the point there. But anyway, I don't want to go on any more of a rant about this. But anyway. That's where we're going to end it. So, Teladia, where can one find you and what have you got coming up on the channel?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Teladia Plays _. Remember, there's an underscore in my Twitter handle. And also on YouTube at Teladia Plays. Myself and Jared will be doing the Spider-Man stream on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're taking a week off for Super Wonder because we need a break. We need a break from Super Wonder because we've been doing a week on week. We just need a 1 week break for Super Wonder. Gives Jared time off. It gives me time off.
Plus it's the holiday season, so we just might as well.
So we just decided might as well. But instead, what I'm gonna do is Thursday or Friday, I'll be doing collabs with Sil Abdul, and also got a collab this weekend with Origin Gamer, where we talk about the Wonder Woman games. So expect that.
Which I'm more
Uh,
excited for now. It's not live service.
Yes.
Yay!
So we'll be talking about the fact that it's not live service and why it's a good thing that WB has come out with a statement. So we'll be talking about that.
As for Comics League, again, Super Wonder Legacy, Britt and I are talking about the superpowered documentary in depth. I just put together the show notes. It's going to be very detailed. It's going to be a great discussion. And Teladia, are you going to be on the Nick stream today?
Yes, this Nick stream, I'm only going to be there for
Yes.
an hour.
Yeah, it's fine. So after this, at about, does he do it at 7 or 8? I think he does it at 8.
He does it. He does it in 2 hours.
Yeah,
1 hour
so,
from now. So 1 hour from now. Sorry.
So
Yeah.
if you want to hear more of us talk, you can see us on
The Phoenix Press.
from the on the Phoenix Press, where he plays. I think he's playing
Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, he's doing Asylum, and we're like bashing it. We're bashing his gameplay because he can't do stealth. So
He
we're
can't
doing
do
that.
stealth
Yeah,
for the
he
life
can't do
of him.
stealth. You definitely
life.
can't. And then I'm gonna be on, obviously, on Teladia's channel, at least for. Are we still doing the Spider-Man stream?
We're doing the Spider-Man stream,
Okay,
but
cool.
we're not doing the Super Wonder.
Well,
We're taking a
looks
week
like
off.
we have to continue a little longer. So JJheat Plays, what's up, dude? Your
Oh,
thoughts on Batman Hush, real quick, because we're actually about to wrap up.
Hold on, give me just a second.
All right, but anyway, so we're gonna be we're gonna be doing that on Tuesday, and Under Two Capes, we're still like figuring it out. And again, I'll do a community post on my channel.
Here we go.
Here comes the Rock. So your thoughts, and keep it PG. Your thoughts on Hush.
PG
is the biggest piece of dog doo doo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, all right, JJheat. We'll blow through the way I had this organized with you since you just got here. So, what does the movie do well?
The movie does a pretty much straight play-by-play adaptation. Basically, the initial mystery, the Batcat romance, and kind of cuts back some of the fluff from the original comic. So I will give it that.
Now, what does it not do well?
Okay. They make Jason Todd a red herring, even though he's never been referenced in the DCAMU at all. They pretty much roast Riddler, make Riddler the main villain with arguably the most basic justification imaginable, kill off Thomas Elliot to where he barely has any relevance at all. It's pretty much a self-contained story which completely recontextualizes the entire film into itself.
And emphasizes Lois Lane.
That's from this comic. I mean, that's
no, but still, that's my one problem with the comic too.
So what? You have Superman in the comic and you don't have Lois with him. Like that's
yes,
kind of
exactly. He is not dependent upon her.
Bit of a
he is a strong, independent man. A Superman, as a matter of fact. By the way, JJheat, while I have you here, what do you think of Lois Lane somehow knowing how to use the Hellbat armor? Because Tevye thinks that's badass.
I mean, it's a good mom moment or a maternal parent protecting their young. But practically, I mean, at least from my memory of the comic, there was nothing suggesting that Batman had improved the Hellbat suit. Not even a throwaway line.
Or why would he teach her how to use the Hellbat suit? Again, it doesn't make sense. I had to say that. But anyway, yeah. So now let me, okay. So since I have you here, your general thoughts on Hush, go.
I'd give it a 6 out of 10. And that's
exactly the rating we gave it.
I'd give it a 6. Like, say what you will about the DCAMU and how it basically relies on specific characters. But the most appropriate way I can say this is that Hush was a cash grab. They just adapted it for the DCAMU for the sake of it. Hush could have been a standalone and nothing structure-wise would have changed.
Yeah, because what we said is that they should have just done it as a separate movie, but also like recreated Jim Lee's art style in animation and such. The other thing is one of my problems with the JJheat is that it changes stuff for no reason, like swapping out Huntress for Batgirl. That makes no sense. I'm sorry, JJheat, go ahead.
I get your point. I do get your point, but I think the only time Batgirl ever made an appearance in the DCAMU was in the epilogue of Bad Blood. And even then it wasn't even a speaking role. It was just a few seconds, grapple in the distance, fade to black.
Yeah, but it's just, but still, I'm like, if it's that small of a detail, why would you change it?
Because you still need to establish at least a version of Huntress.
No, I mean, do Huntress, don't change her to Batgirl. That's what I think. I think they should have kept the Huntress in here and just said, oh, Huntress exists in the DC universe, because she doesn't do a lot in the book, though. That's the thing.
I feel like for consistency purposes, since they already made it at least a model for Batgirl in the DCAMU, okay, we'll just give the role to Batgirl and just hire someone to do a quick voiceover for a couple of scenes.
That's true. That she did show up in like the end credit of Bad Blood, I think, what they did. But it's one of those small details, and that's one of my problems with the DCAMU in general. They make all these really, really, really stupid like changes that make no impact on the story whatsoever. That's my problem. That's my chief problem with the DCAMU in general. It's just that they change way too much stuff. So,
and
yeah, go ahead.
Teladia, what do you think before we wrap up?
Yeah.
I already said my piece about.
Okay, all right. I must have missed that second.
Yeah. So actually, you know, while I have you here, so JJheat, where can one find you, and what have you got coming on your channel?
For me, you can find me on JJheat Plays on YouTube. We had just reached 176 subscribers. So, a Gotham Knights TV show review with these two gentlemen is in the works. Can they break me, or will I soldier on through another bad TV show?
You haven't seen anything. You haven't seen hell. You have no idea of hell. Yeah, you haven't seen. You have to keep and remember at the end of it, you have to positively review the show. That's what you're gonna have to do, like it's April Fool's. I'm adding that to the show.
Hey, perfectly fair. At least I'm not soldiering through it alone. Perfectly fair. But
oh, here's the thing. I won't be watching it. I'll be watching you.
But you're on the panel, so
I'm only kidding. I'll watch it. But anyway, all right. So yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. So stay heroic, and I'll be sure to see you all in the next movie review. See ya.